Hey everyone, Jim here. So, humans have always been kind of bad at dealing with uncertainty. We like knowing what's coming next. It's why we have weather apps, horoscopes, and those people who tell you not to open the oven while the cake is baking like you're going to trigger a nuclear meltdown. But back in the day, before apps and science, people tried all kinds of ridiculous ways to predict the future. And, spoiler alert, none of them worked. Let's kick things off with Haruspicy, a word that sounds like something you'd yell in a spellcasting game but is actually way grosser. Ancient Romans and Etruscans thought they could predict the future by examining the insides of animals. Yeah, forget your magic 8-ball. Just get yourself a goat and a knife, and you're all set. The priest, or Haruspice, would cut open the poor animal and study its liver, intestines, or sometimes its heart to divine the god's will. Was the liver too pale? That might mean famine. Were the intestines coiled a certain way? Could mean a victorious battle, or maybe just that the cow was really stressed out before dying. Imagine being the guy who had to announce this.
So Emperor, the spleen says things are going to be very bad. Maybe hold off on that war.
Meanwhile, there's some senator in the back like,
can't we just try asking the gods nicely instead of gutting another sheep?
nope, too simple. Next up is Augury, which is basically what happens when birdwatchers decide they want a little more drama in their lives. In ancient Rome, augurs would observe birds in flight and interpret their movements as divine messages. If birds flew to the left, bad news. To the right, good news. If they flew in circles, that meant, I don't know, that Zeus was bored. But it wasn't just about direction. They'd also interpret the type of bird, the number of birds, and even their calls. Basically, birds were like feathery messengers of fate. Oh, and let's not forget the sacred chickens. These were special chickens used to predict the outcome of major decisions. They'd throw grain on the ground, and if the chickens ate it enthusiastically, it was a good omen. If the chickens ignored it, cancel everything. Imagine halting an entire war campaign because one chicken decided it wasn't hungry. I'd love to see this happen today. Like, imagine a CEO being like, our quarterly forecast depends on Greg's parakeet. Release the bird! Makes you wonder how humanity ever made it this far. Let's talk about scrying. This one's probably the most iconic method on the list. Picture an old fortune teller staring into a crystal ball and saying vague stuff like, I see a tall, dark stranger in your future. Boom, scrying. But back then, people didn't just use crystal balls. Oh no, they got creative. Mirrors, bowls of water, polished stones, basically anything that could reflect light was fair game. The idea was that if you stared long enough, you'd start seeing visions. Fun fact, this isn't magic. It's just your brain trying to make sense of staring at something for too long. It's the same reason why clouds start looking like dinosaurs if you stare at them for 5 minutes. The real question is, who held these people accountable? If someone said, I saw a vision of great prosperity, and then the next week half the village burned down, were they like, oh, the bowl must have been smudged? What a sweet gig. Just tell people whatever pops into your head and call it prophecy. Alright, buckle up because this one's peak nonsense. Alomancy is divination by salt. The process was simple. You'd sprinkle salt on the ground, look at the pattern it made, and interpret it as a message from the universe. Was the salt scattered evenly? Good news. Clumped together? Bad vibes. If it vaguely looked like a bird or a snake, you were either going to have a good harvest or die of dysentery. Super helpful. This wasn't just a party trick either. People took this seriously. There are even stories of kings making policy decisions based on salt readings.
Ah yes, the salt forms a wavy line. Clearly the gods want us to invade the neighboring kingdom.
Sure, that's what it means, Your Majesty. And it's certainly not just gravity or even random.
Honestly, Alomancy was probably just invented by someone who spilled their salt one day and didn't want to admit they were clumsy. No, this is a prophecy. Look, it says I'm destined to marry a rich widow and retire in luxury. Genius. Fast forward to the 19th century and we've got phrenology. This was the idea that you could predict someone's personality, intelligence, and even their future by feeling the bumps and dips on their skull. Phrenologists believe that different parts of the brain control different traits, like courage, kindness, or creativity, and the size of those areas determined how strong the trait was. So if you had a big bump over the friendship area, congratulations, you were going to be popular. If the criminality area was lumpy, well, sorry, you're a lost cause. This got so popular that people used it for everything. Job interviews, matchmaking, even criminal justice. Imagine being rejected for a bank loan because the banker felt your head and said, this bump says you're bad with money. Of course, it was all nonsense. Turns out, skull bumps have nothing to do with personality. Who could have guessed, right? Well, everyone. Everyone guessed. And finally, we've got astrology, the classic method of blaming your problems on planets millions of miles away. The basic idea is that the position of the stars and planets at the time of your birth influences your personality and destiny. Sounds cool until you realize that the same constellations have been around for billions of years, and they didn't stop dinosaurs from getting wiped out. Astrology is still alive and kicking today. People read horoscopes like, Mercury is in retrograde, so maybe don't sign that lease or talk to your boss. Meanwhile, Mercury's just up there like, I'm literally a floating rock. Leave me out of this. And let's not forget, the traits assigned to the zodiac signs are so vague they could apply to anyone. You're a Libra, so you're charming but indecisive. Wow, you just described half of humanity. Next you'll tell me Scorpios are mysterious and Geminis have two sides. Revolutionary stuff, guys. So, what have we learned today? Humans are terrible at predicting the future. Whether it's staring at chicken guts, tossing salt, or poking skulls, we'll try anything to feel in control. Stay skeptical, stay curious, and I'll see you next time, you beautiful disasters.